Hi, I'm Richard Vince, and welcome to another Brain Dojo broadcast. So I'm going to talk today a little bit about planting a seed, the concept of giving someone an idea. Now, I know that I've spoken before about the similarities between Brain Dojo and how developing as a person is very similar to gardening, has lots of similarities to gardening. And I guess this falls into this category as well. Um, so the full title of what I wanted to speak to you about is that we can never force people to listen to us, or even to hear what we've got to say, or pay attention, or any of those things, because obviously people have complete control of their own thoughts and actions, and that's fair enough. That's as we would want, isn't it? But we must never underestimate the value or the potential of planting a seed of thought. Something that can ferment inside someone's mind and can develop into something really useful and really good. And of course, we must be on our guard to not plant weeds, really horrible thoughts, or just even if they're not really horrible thoughts, but if they're unpleasant or niggling or seeds of self-doubt, planting those sort of seeds wouldn't really be a positive thing to do, but it's not a pleasant thing to do. But I'm sure you've been in this situation, as I have many times, when you think you're talking to maybe a group of people or an individual, and you think they're not listening, they're not paying any attention to the things I'm saying. And then sometime later, maybe a week, 2 weeks, a year, 2 years, anyway, some period of time in the future, that person will say something to you, and you'll think, wow, you actually were paying attention. Now, we never know how much attention they're paying, or if they're actually paying any attention at all. But sometimes those seeds of thoughts, those tiny little fractions of information go into someone's brain, and they sit there, and it's just enough to cause other thoughts to link with them, or a very, very slight change of direction of that person's thoughts to something more positive, or 100 other things. But it's such a worthwhile thing to do. So, as you probably know, I spend lots more time teaching, nearly all of my time teaching. I suppose at the moment, over half, perhaps getting towards 2/3 of my students are children, so people under 18 years old. I'm a great believer that I don't necessarily think I have more influence over children than adults, to be honest with you. I think people are influenceable or not, and that can be at any age. I don't think it makes too much difference whether they're grown-ups or children. I think we influence people in different ways at different ages, but to be honest with you, I think people are receptive or they're not receptive. But really, I suppose the point of this whole broadcast is to encourage you to not be put off by the people who we perceive as not being perceptive. Anyway, let me go back to what I was going to say. So I spend lots of my time in front of groups of people teaching martial arts techniques. And you put across a concept in martial arts, and that you may need to relate it to something in life. Martial arts is life, I know, but something in everyday life. And you use an example, and you think, I'm not sure anyone really paid attention to that. And then somebody will say something back to you, and you think, oh, okay, yeah, maybe that did click, maybe it did go in. And when you're speaking to groups of people, what I found that is really helpful thing to do, helpful for me and helpful for them as well, is to just make suggestions and give possibilities. So, for instance, if I was going to say, had you ever considered that this may be possible? You may have always thought in the past this equals this equals this, but is there a possibility that the thing that happens could actually equal something else? Is there a chance that it could be open to a more enjoyable or a more positive outcome than you thought? And also, I do my very best to try and plant seeds really about things that people wouldn't otherwise think about. For instance, with teenagers and young people generally, planting the seed in their minds that they actually are in complete control of their lives is quite a thing for them. It's, in most cases, nobody else will have planted that seed before I get there. And you say to them, well, do you realize that you're in control? What do you mean I'm in control? Well, you're in control of your life. You choose its direction. You're the person who decides what's important, and you're going to have more of this or less of this, and all of these things. And often, children will be dismissive to begin with, and they'll say, "Well, I'm not in control. I'm not allowed to do anything. I can't even choose what colour clothes I wear for school." And I get that. They aren't in complete control of every aspect of their life, but of course they are in control of the direction that their life will take. The things that they do now will enable them to have more choices in the future, and more choices usually results in more happiness. What I'm really trying to put across is, when we're in conversation, when we're chatting, and when we're just speaking to people, or if you're a parent and you're speaking to your children or somebody else's children, never underestimate the value of planting a seed of positivity that could grow and flourish and become something really great within that person. But by the same score, but don't be disappointed if it doesn't. The world isn't relying upon you to plant a seed of positivity in every person you meet. It's not. The world doesn't work quite as delicately as that. There are lots of people doing lots of things, and we're all doing our part. But I think it's a very nice thing to do in life, to try and plant as many positive seeds as we possibly can as we go through life. And whether they're to adults or children or anything, whoever, it's always good to try and put something positive in their minds. And as I said, I always like to put it in as a possibility. Had you considered this? Could you consider this? Is there a chance that this might be true if this, and this? Yeah, and I think that's a really good thing to do. I realised when I was thinking about this broadcast just how much I do. I do a lots and lots. And something that I very much, I don't like to use the word try, because to me, when I try to do something, it probably suggests I'm not going to be successful. And I think I am reasonably successful with this. So let me be much more positive then. I'll say I do everything I can all of the time to be careful with my language and not plant negative seeds, or even neutral seeds sometimes. Seeds that give people doubt about their abilities or their capabilities or whatever. So be thoughtful about your language. And I know sometimes the expression, you'll hear an expression, clean up your language. Well, for me, cleaning up my language didn't just mean not swearing, not using four-letter words or rude words or cuss words or anything horrible. It means cleaning up the way I speak to people. I try to think I try to speak thoughtfully. I try not to let words come out of my mouth. That's a prime example, isn't it? I try not to let words come out of my mouth. I try not to let words come out of my mouth that I haven't thought about. I haven't tried to put into some sort of framework. I try not to speak carelessly. Does that make sense? Okay, because speaking carelessly, I heard this described beautifully once as if you have a sheet of paper, a nice clean new sheet of A4 or A4 paper, and you take it and you scrunch it up with your hand. You do this, and you open it up again, and you try and flatten it out and make it look as nice as it did before. Well, you might get it, and this is your careless speech or your careless words. Is that scrunching up of the paper? It doesn't matter what you do with that piece of paper afterwards, whether you spend hours and hours trying to get it level and smooth and beautifully unmarked. It will always be creased. There will always be some evidence that you were careless. So your careless words do this to the piece of paper, and then it leaves these marks in the paper afterwards, and very probably forever. And I'm not saying you won't ever be forgiven or you can't ever explain what you actually meant, but it's so much better to think before you speak. And there's nothing wrong with thinking before you speak. When someone asks you a question, it's nice sometimes to say, well, just give me a second, let me think about that. Okay, well, and it's a considered response, isn't it? Anyway, the theme, planting positive seeds. All right, remember, we can never make anyone listen to us. We can never make anyone pay attention. But my advice is to never underestimate the value of planting a positive seed. All right, thanks a lot. Speak next time.